Hello everyone, my name is Zenitsu and I'm back with another Digimon spoilers video. So over the past couple of days we definitely got some new and interesting cards to talk about, so let's just dive right in and talk about them. First up we have Misimon. So Misimon is a new black digitama where it gives the nice inheritable ability of during your turn, if this Digimon is a D Brigade Digimon, then it gains plus 1000 DP. So DP boosters aren't really anything new or special, but what is special about the card is the fact that it's actually referring to the card's typing, which we haven't really seen a whole lot before. So I definitely like the fact that Digimon is playing with a card's typing a little bit more, and that could definitely create some really interesting synergies and deck varieties. So Misimon playing around with D Brigades is definitely really nice because we are kind of already seeing this D Brigade deck slowly start to form, and this is a great Digitama for that potential deck. Next up, we have Xiaoman. So Xiaoman is a purple Digitama where it has the inheritable ability during your turn. If you have 10 or more cards in your trash, then this Digimon gains retaliation. So for those who don't know what retaliation is, basically it's a really powerful ability where when your Digimon does battle with an opponent's Digimon, then that Digimon is going to be deleted. So that's just very, very powerful because this can turn basically almost any one of your Digimon into a retaliation Digimon, and getting 10 cards in your trash isn't really hard for purple, considering they have a whole bunch of ways to self-mill on top of Kamikaze, on top of Digiburst, so it's not going to be very hard to turn this ability online, and when it is online, it's going to be very, very powerful because, again, this is basically an ability that acts as removal on your Digimon, and purple kind of likes to Kamikaze anyway, so that way they could revive the card back with a different card. So this acting as a good form of removal for the lower end Digimon is definitely very, very nice and very, very powerful for the color. Next we have Budmon. So Budmon is a new green Digitama where it gives the inheritable ability of during your turn. If this Digimon has the digiburst ability, then its DP is increased by 1000. So this is playing around with the fact that Digimon want other Digimon to have particular abilities, so I'm really liking that kind of a thing because this opens a lot more potential design space. We've kind of already seen the interaction with Blocker and the fact that Blocker matters, so this is kind of interacting with Digiburst and the fact that Digiburst matters in a similar way. So I definitely think that this is a pretty interesting Digitama, especially when the fact that Digiburst wants to get rid of its evolution sources, so this is trying to fight for a slot to basically stay in as an evolution source. Next up, we have Brahmastra. So Brahmastra is a 1-cost red option card, and it has the main ability of during this turn, you get to choose one of your hybrid Digimon, and it gains plus 3000 DP, plus security attack plus 1, and if this Digimon's attack is blocked, then you gain 3 memory. So that's just a lot of abilities to have all on one buff card, making this one of the more powerful buff cards in the game. Yes, the restriction is it has to be on a hybrid Digimon in order to do this, but if you're going to be playing this card, you're most likely going to be playing a hybrid Digimon, so that's not really that big of a deal. And it looks like the red hybrid line's whole gimmick is that it wants to buff its own DP, so that way it could basically compete with the level above it in terms of overall power and strength. So I think that ability is definitely going to be really, really interesting to play around with. I don't necessarily know if this buff card is going to be played or not, but it does also have the nice security ability where all of your Digimon gain security attack plus 1 until the end of the turn. So even in the security, it could still give some really solid buffs. Next up, we have Trident Revolver. So Trident Revolver is a 6-costed red option card, and its main ability is to destroy one of the opponent's Digimon that has 6000 DP or less, and then after that you get to play a tamer that costs 4 or less from your hand for free. So this is really, really powerful because tamer cards usually are a little bit on the clunkier side to play, as they usually cost some sort of tempo in order to play them. So a lot of the good tamer-based decks want to figure out ways to play their tamers for free, and right now that's only in the form of Rise Greymon, both red and yellow. And that's kind of why Shine Greymon as a whole has been excelling as a good tamer-based deck, is because he has this effect to basically put out tamers for free, and seeing this type of ability on a spell that's also paired up with some removal is definitely a really, really welcome thing to see, and then its security effect is just activating its main effect. So I definitely think this card is going to be a pretty powerful card to play, just because it helps facilitate those tamer-based strategies without the need of Rise Greymon. Next up, we have Lilaman. So Lilaman is a green level 5 Digimon. Stats aren't anything noteworthy to mention, although what is interesting is the fact that she does have the digiburst ability, and her digiburst ability is digiburst 2, and then when you use this ability, you get to choose one of your opponent's Digimon and rest it. So this is just a very classic green ability. And then she also has a nice inheritable skill where she gives the when attacking ability. When you have a tamer in play, you get to choose one of your opponent's Digimon and rest it. So she's just basically supporting the whole idea of just digiburst and resting, which are just things that green are kind of doing, or at least digiburst is things that green is leaning towards. So I definitely think that this is going to be a pretty interesting and pretty decent card to play with. Next up, we have a new Agumon. So this Agumon has a inheritable skill that's very comparable to Gaomon and Lilaman, where it gives the ability where during your turn, if this was sent to the trash by the Digiburst ability, then you add this card back to your hand instead. So I really like this kind of inheritable ability because it gives a little bit more meaning to the Digiburst ability, and I already think that Digiburst is a pretty interesting ability to play around with, so it's definitely nice to basically have a card that adds itself back to the hand for incentivizing you to use these Digiburst abilities. Because ordinarily, you use the Digiburst abilities and you're essentially losing inheritable sources. Sometimes it doesn't really matter that much because you're going to be playing a whole bunch of vanilla cards anyway, and those are cards you could pitch, but sometimes it does matter because you would potentially be losing some abilities that you might want to keep versus the ability that you're trying to use. Next up, we have Fugamon. So Fugamon is a level 4 red Digimon, and he is actually really interesting because he, for his level, has a really low evolve cost, which is already pretty good. He has a really low play cost, which is also pretty good because if you don't see a rookie, you could always play him without losing much tempo. And then it looks like his DP is going to be 3,000, which is basically comparable to a lot of Digimon for the rookie level. So this is a really fantastic card to like turbo your Digivolving into, and it's even more efficient than Dark Tyrannomon because the evolve cost costs the same, but his play cost costs half, and you really aren't going to be attacking with the card, so you don't really care about the fact that he doesn't have a lot of DP. The whole idea is to be able to play this card and get a level 4 out very quickly and very efficiently, so that way you could start Digivolving up. And I definitely think that this card is going to be a very played card for those red decks that are already playing Dark Tyrannomon, and for some of those decks, this just might replace Dark Tyrannomon outright. So I think this is going to be a very, very powerful card to be playing around with. Next up, we have Aldemon. So Aldemon is a red level 5 Digimon. Stats aren't anything too noteworthy to mention, but this is another Digimon in the red hybrid line that we've been seeing over the set. And what's really powerful is the fact that he innately has security attack +1, which ordinarily you really don't want to attack with your level 5s unless you're 100% certain that he's going to live through the attack or live through being attacked into. So to help him aggro out, he has this nice ability on top of his security attack +1, where during your turn, if this Digimon has a hybrid Digimon or a tamer in its evolution source, then this Digimon gets plus 4,000 DP. So with that 4,000 DP boost, it makes him be a 11k level 5 with security attack +1, which is just really, really powerful to think about because it allows you to aggro out with this stage of Digimon, which we really don't see that often because most of the time players just want to feel safe in attack with their megas because they'll have the least likelihood of them dying due to security checks. So seeing this type of ability on this level of Digimon is very, very nice because it allows you to, again, just make those aggro plays a little bit earlier. On top of which, if he has any other inheritable abilities that make him even stronger, then it just makes it so that it's even easier to attack with him. So I definitely really like this card, even though I do think it's kind of boring. I do like what he's doing, and I do like what he represents. Next up, we have Drag It into the Water. So this is a 1-cost blue option card, and it has the main ability of during this turn, all of your Digimon gain the ability of when they attack your opponent's Digimon. If it doesn't have any evolution sources, then you get to destroy it. So this is a very, very powerful form of removal, and it definitely really incentivizes you to want to try to attack the opponent's evolution sources, because previously there was no real incentive to try to get rid of the opponent's evolution sources, but now this is definitely a really solid removal card that the opponent has to think about, because this also works very, very well against the digiburst strategy where they're getting rid of their own evolution sources. So this is definitely going to be a pretty interesting card to see some potential play, on top of which it has a nice security ability of adding this card to your hand. And then the last card that we got for today is Full Moon Blaster. So Full Moon Blaster is a 5-cost blue option card where its main ability is you get to choose one of your opponent's level 5 or less Digimon and return it to the hand. And if the opponent has 8 or more cards in their hand, then you get to send it to the bottom of the deck instead and then trash all of the evolution sources. Then its security effect is activating its main effect. So this is a pretty interesting option card, considering blue already likes to bounce cards, and this is a really good form of bouncing. It is specifically for level 5 or less, so it could hit basically everything but the megas, but it's still a pretty decent bounce card nonetheless to have. And then you also just so happen to have the additional benefit where it could send the card to the bottom of the deck instead. So overall, again, just a really nice option card to have. It is very similar to what we currently already have in the game, though, in the form of Ray of Victory, but Ray of Victory has the upside of making one of your Digimon active if you control Blue Tamer, where this could potentially make that removal effect a little bit better. So I do think it's better than Ray of Victory, but Ray of Victory already isn't seeing a whole lot of play, so I don't exactly know how played this is going to be. We definitely have a lot of new and exciting cards to think about, and as we get closer to the set, we're only going to get more new and exciting cards to continue to think about and to look forward to. So if you like this kind of content and want to help support the channel, I do have a TCG Player affiliate link down in the description below. Whenever you use that link to check out and buy your cards off of tcgplayer.com, then some of the money will help go towards the channel. Then on top of which, I also have partnered with Overcard Gamers on Facebook. I do make and design some playmats, and they are going to be featuring some of my playmats. So you could purchase some of my playmat designs over on them on Facebook. And that's all I really have for this video. As always, feel free to tell me your thoughts down in the comments below. And as always, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more content. And I will see you in the next video.